Now, let me not, of course, fail to highlight that we have a very significant security challenge emanating from Gaza. And that, of course, is manifest in rocket fire as one example. And there are many other examples of that very significant security challenge. But that is something that needs to be effectively dealt with within the framework of international law. Because, again, as I say, it's not something from an altruistic perspective. It's something from a very practical, hard-nosed, realistic perspective, that if you can't uphold international law in difficult circumstances, then you concede to the rule of the gun. Because that's all it is. That's our choice in this world. Rule of law, rule of gun. And at the moment, here in Gaza, people are very despairing of the absence of the application of the rule of law by the international community, who has set out very clearly what the rights of civilians are caught up in conflict and so on and so forth. So again, for everyone here, for every mother and father, for every child, our first responsibility is to prove to them that we can uphold the rule of law, that we can counter the forces of negative, of violence and so on and so forth within the framework of the rule of law. We can do that. So if we have to have very intense search procedures for people leaving Gaza, so be it. But don't say as a blanket decision, nobody can leave Gaza. And that's what we have at the moment, more or less. Most people can't leave Gaza. Why? If they have to queue up for hours, if they have to take off their jacket, if they have to, whatever. But no, we have collectively imprisoned this civilian population because we're failing to find effective mechanisms and measures to actually address the security threat, which, when we then get down into the detail of the security threat, is manageable. If we can bring in a sack of flour, which we are doing at the moment, then equally we can bring in a bag of cement. So why then are we being told we can't bring in any cement? It's not to do with security, it's to do with politicized security. So using security as an excuse for some political agenda. And of course, the tragedy and travesty of all of this is that politicization is, over the last years, resulting in the deaths of undisputably innocent human beings. Let's start with children. So our failure is not something that we can excuse ourselves of. You know, political failure results in the deaths of innocent children, and there's more coming. You know, again, you don't have to be an expert. You know, you do the same thing in the same way, you're going to get the same result. That's what Albert Einstein said. You know, the definition of insanity was doing the same thing, same experiment in the same way, and expecting a different result. And we are just going around and around and around. And people here are terrified, I would say, at the moment, that there will be another round of violence. That's you know, what is preoccupying. They hear sonic booms. They wonder, is it coming? We had sonic booms just a couple of days ago, and people were leaflets distributed, and you know, rockets, increasing the number of rockets being fired. Who's in charge? Are we handing over the way we act and behave and react to those who have a few rockets? No way should we do that. We shouldn't give them that power over us. We should defeat them, and so on and so forth. So again, your coming here is so important. What we need, of course, are as many people such as yourselves, and this is a tremendously motivating experience for everybody here, that such a large group would come as you have done, and to feel the reality, to see the reality, to make up your own mind. I mean, the first criticism I have of policy makers is, why didn't you come? You know, why didn't you come? Because you can come. The only thing you have to have is political courage to face the reality. And I also expect that most human beings, when faced with this reality, will see it for what it is and will then be motivated to do a hell of a lot more to actually change the way things are here. Because again, it is pure politics. And we need strong political interventions to actually break the cycle that we're on at the moment. And it matters, again, beyond altruistic concern for Palestinians. It matters to the security, I would suggest, of our wider world. So, again, even from that platform of self-preservation or self-interest, we should be able to mobilize a coalition of activism to actually redress this situation and turn it around. Let me just say that from Europe, we've had too few of the executive. We've had one foreign minister from the European Union itself, Minister Bildt. We've had Minister Storey from Norway. They're the only two foreign ministers who've come to Gaza in the past year to see what happened, and they did so, and we thank them for that. We've had a limited number of international development ministers from the UK, from Spain, from the Netherlands, and that's been it. Next week we will have hopefully the development minister from Belgium. My first request to anybody who's making a decision about this whole Middle East thing is come out here, and don't just visit Gaza, by the way. Visit Sderot, and visit the settlements, and visit Jerusalem, and visit the West Bank, and so on and so forth, and go to Tel Aviv. I mean, there's a lot to actually have a personal experience of, and then you'll make up your own mind. And I'm absolutely confident that, because I've seen it, I've seen 12 United States congressmen and women have come to Gaza this year, this past year, since the conflict, including 2 United States senators from both sides of the aisle. And I saw a very big difference in Washington when I went in March and when I went in October, of understanding. And that's very good, because we need, as I say, more messengers of the truth, because there's a whole pile of politicized information which is extremely compelling, extremely confusing, but actually the truth is rather simple. And it gets back to the very basics, because that's what we're missing here. We're missing the very basics. So I commend you for doing that, and I hope that you, from your own positions, will be able to encourage those who sit around the Council of Foreign Ministers and in other places where decisions are made to actually come and see for themselves, because you've proven by your physical presence here today that it is feasible to do that.